All right, welcome. Today we are doing something like a systems check, a deep dive into the incredible maintenance operations that keep you running. It's stuff we often just take for granted, right? Because it happens silently, without us really thinking about it. But honestly, when you look at the blueprints, the engineering is just spectacular.
It really is.
We got this fantastic set of research sent in by a listener covering the lymphatic system, respiration, and the digestive and metabolic engine.
Yeah, it's a great combination.
Essentially, we're looking at your internal plumbing, your gas station, and your high-tech kitchen all rolled into one.
Ah, that's a good way to put it.
So our mission today is to sort of unpack the genius that links these three systems. We'll focus on fluid balance, constant protection, and how the body keeps energy flowing steadily. Okay, let's get into it.
Sounds good. And you know, these three systems are constantly talking to each other, managing risks and resources basically all the time. If we had to quickly sum up their main jobs, the lymphatic system, that's your fluid recovery service, and crucially, your immune surveillance network.
Okay.
The respiratory system handles the immediate stuff, constant oxygen coming in, CO2 going out, and it plays a big role in pH control too, very quickly.
The essentials.
And then digestion and metabolism, with the liver really leading the charge there, that's the supply chain manager. It gets the fuel and makes sure energy is stable.
Okay, let's start with that stealthy maintenance crew,
Oh,
the lymphatic system.
this is so important because just through basic physics, as blood circulates, fluid gets pushed out of the tiny capillaries into your tissues.
Exactly.
And here's the kicker. Not all of that fluid actually makes it back into the blood capillaries directly.
That's the whole challenge. We're talking about potentially up to 3 liters of this excess interstitial fluid between the cells left behind in the tissues every single day.
3 liters, wow. Yeah, it's significant. If the lymphatic system didn't collect that fluid and return it to the blood, your tissues would swell up almost immediately. That's edema. And the whole exchange of nutrients and waste between blood and cells would just grind to a halt.
So the genius must be in how it collects it. How do these lymphatic capillaries manage to, suck up all that fluid without a big pump like the heart?
It's brilliant, actually. It's all about how they handle pressure differences. The lymphatic capillaries themselves are incredibly porous. They're formed by endothelial cells that just loosely overlap.
Okay.
Think of them like tiny one-way swinging doors. When the fluid pressure outside the capillary builds up, it pushes these little flaps inward, opening the door and letting fluid rush in.
Ah, yeah.
But then if the pressure inside the vessel gets higher, it pushes the flaps outward, sealing the edges tightly shut. So the lymph fluid is trapped inside and can only move forward back towards the bloodstream.
That's clever. But here's the critical twist, right?
Yeah.
Because they're designed to be so porous, they don't just pick up fluid. They can easily take in bigger things that blood capillaries would block.
Exactly. We're talking large proteins that leaked out, bits of dead cells, bacteria, viruses, even cancer cells that might be migrating, especially if an area is inflamed.
So that collected fluid, the lymph, it's now potentially a highway for danger, carrying pathogens around.
It is a potential risk, yes. And that risk is managed by the strategically placed inspection points, the lymph nodes.
Right.
You find clusters of them, particularly in places like your neck, cervical region, your armpits, axillary, and your groin, inguinal. These are the central defense checkpoints.
So when a doctor checks for swollen glands in your neck if you have a sore throat, that's directly related to this. They're checking the inspection station.
That's precisely it. The nodes swell because they're actively fighting the infection draining from that area. Now, let's look at the architecture inside the node, because this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh.
Lymph fluid flows into a lymph node through several incoming vessels called afferent vessels, but it flows out through far fewer outgoing vessels, the efferent vessels.
Fewer exits than entrances, like a traffic jam by design.
Exactly. Think of it like a specialized car wash, maybe, with 3 wide lanes going in, but only 1 narrow ramp coming out. This structural difference forces the lymph fluid to slow way, way down as it percolates through the node.
It's like sand through an hourglass.
Perfect analogy. And that intentional slowdown is crucial. It gives the immune cells inside the node, the macrophages, the T cells, the B cells, plenty of time to thoroughly scan the fluid, identify any threats, and destroy them before the cleaned up lymph returns to the blood.
It's a purification step built right into the plumbing. We should also give a quick mention to MALT, right? The mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue.
Oh, absolutely. MALT includes things like your tonsils, the Peyer's patches in your small intestine, even your appendix. These are basically lymphoid sentinels positioned right under the surface in the digestive and respiratory tracts. our biggest interfaces with the outside world, ready to intercept trouble early.
Okay, so the lymphatics police the internal fluid environment. But as you just mentioned, the biggest front line, the biggest potential vulnerability has got to be where we constantly meet the outside world, our airways.
No question, the respiratory system is a massive gateway for dust, microbes, pollutants, you name it. So it needs layers upon layers of defense built right in.
Starting with the basics.
Starting with the first line of defense. This is all about mechanical and chemical barriers. You've got your skin, which has an acid mantle and protective oils. You have mucous membranes lining openings.
And things like tears and saliva.
Right. Tears and saliva both contain an enzyme called lysozyme. It's pretty amazing. It chemically destroys bacteria just on contact.
And inside the airways themselves, there's that constant cleaning mechanism.
The ciliated respiratory mucosa, yeah. It's like a microscopic escalator. Tiny hairs, the cilia, beat in a coordinated way, creating this gentle current that sweeps contaminated mucus, dust, and trapped microbes upward towards your throat.
Or you just swallow it.
You swallow it, and then the highly acidic juices in your stomach destroy most of the pathogens. It's a remarkably efficient, non-stop cleaning system.
But sometimes things get past that first line.
They do, and that's when the second line of defense kicks in almost immediately. This is your innate immune response. Think phagocyte cells that eat invaders and these really aggressive lymphocytes called natural killer cells, or NK cells.
NK cells sound pretty intense. They're described as the rapid response team. How do they manage to take out infected cells or even cancerous cells so quickly without waiting for the whole specialized adaptive immune system to get mobilized?
They're fascinating because they don't need that prior training or specific recognition like T cells do. They patrol and look for cells displaying generic signs of stress or abnormality like cells infected by viruses or tumor cells often do. They don't need a specific ID badge. They look for suspicious behavior.
And their attack method?
It's like a two-punch chemical weapon. First, they release a protein called perforin.
Perforin.
Perforate. Exactly. It drills holes, it perforates the target cell's membrane. Once those holes are punched, the NK cell releases powerful digestive enzymes called granzymes right into the target cell. These granzymes basically trigger the cell to self-destruct from the inside out. It degrades the cellular contents. It's fast, effective, and happens way before the more specialized adaptive immunity really ramps up. Instantaneous destruction, really.
Okay, that rapid defense is vital. But none of this defense, none of the body's work, happens without constant fuel, constant energy. And that brings us back to the respiratory system, but this time, the mechanics of just getting the air in.
Right, pulmonary ventilation.
Right.
Breathing.
We all do it, but what's the elegant mechanism behind it?
The underlying principle is actually elegantly simple physics. Volume changes inside your chest cavity lead to pressure changes, and pressure changes drive the flow of gas.
So when you inhale,
your diaphragm contracts and pulls down, your rib cage expands. This increases the volume of your chest cavity. That increased volume lowers the pressure inside your lungs compared to the air outside. Air naturally rushes in to equalize that pressure. Exhaling is typically passive muscles relax, volume decreases, pressure increases, air flows out.
And the lungs themselves just follow the chest wall movements.
They do, and this is critical. The lungs adhere very tightly to the inside of the thorax wall. There's a thin layer of pleural fluid between the lung surface and the chest wall lining, and the surface tension of this fluid acts like two wet microscope slides stuck together. You can slide them, but it's hard to pull them apart. So when the chest expands, the lungs are pulled open with it.
Got it. But let's talk about the control center, the engine room for this. There's a part of the brainstem, the medulla oblongata.
That's right. Specifically, the ventral respiratory group, or VRG. This network of neurons sets the basic rhythm of breathing, maintaining eupnea, that normal, quiet breathing rate, usually around 12 to 15 breaths per minute.
So what actually drives the speed of that rhythm? What tells the VRG to speed up or slow down?
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating, and it's often misunderstood. The single most powerful chemical stimulus regulating your breathing rate and depth is not low oxygen levels, as most people assume.
Really? Not low oxygen?
Not primarily, no. It's rising levels of carbon dioxide in your blood.
Carbon dioxide, the waste gas.
Exactly. When CO2 levels rise in your blood, it quickly combines with water to form carbonic acid, which then releases hydrogen ions. This makes your blood more acidic, lowers the pH. Your brain is extremely sensitive to these pH changes.
So breathing faster helps get rid of CO2 and brings the pH back up.
Precisely. The respiratory system is your fastest way to adjust blood pH. If you hold your breath, CO2 CO2 builds up, acid builds up, and that's the primary signal screaming at your brain. Breathe. Get rid of this CO2.
So rising CO2 is the body's main alarm bell for breathing control.
It is. There's one really important exception, though. In people with certain chronic lung diseases, like severe emphysema, their bodies can, over time, become less sensitive to high CO2 levels. They adapt to chronically high CO2.
So what drives their breathing then?
In those specific cases, the body becomes more reliant on sensing low oxygen levels hypoxia as the main stimulus to breathe. It's a backup system that takes over when the primary CO2 sensing is blunted. It just shows how the body adapts, sometimes trading efficiency for survival in chronic conditions.
Okay, so we've covered air intake, gas exchange, and defense. Now let's move from air to food.
Yeah.
Our third big system, the digestive tract.
Yes.
This is all about acquiring and processing the raw fuel needed to run everything else we've talked about.
And it's worth remembering that slightly strange concept. The digestive tract, from mouth to anus, is technically a continuous tube, like the hole through a donut.
Meaning the food inside it.
Is technically still outside your body's internal environment until it gets officially absorbed across the gut lining into your blood or lymph.
That is a wild mental image, isn't it? The food is on this journey, passing through this incredible series of mechanical and chemical checkpoints.
Absolutely. And the mechanical breakdown starts impressively early and powerfully.
Yeah.
Take the stomach, for instance. It's not just a bag. It's built for serious mechanical work, for kneading.
How so?
It has the usual circular and longitudinal muscle layers found in the gut, but it also has an extra third layer, an oblique muscle layer. This unique arrangement allows the stomach to not just push food along, but to vigorously churn, mix, and pummel the food. It physically kneads it, breaking it down into that thick, acidic liquid called chyme.
I mean, chemically, the stomach is pretty harsh, too.
Oh, definitely. Specialized cells, the parietal cells, pump out hydrochloric acid, HCl. This stuff is highly corrosive. It has two main jobs. First, it activates a protein-digesting enzyme called pepsin, which is secreted in an inactive form, pepsinogen. Second, that acid kills off most of the bacteria and pathogens that you inevitably swallow, including those swept down from your airways.
So how does the stomach not digest itself with all that acid?
Great question. Protection is key. The stomach lining is coated with a thick, protective layer of bicarbonate-rich alkaline mucus. This neutralizes the acid right at the stomach wall surface.
Okay, so after the stomach's churning and acid bath, the chyme moves into the small intestine.
Right, and the small intestine is where the vast majority of chemical digestion and, crucially, nutrient absorption happens. Its structure is optimized for one thing: massive surface area.
How does it achieve that?
Three main features. First, it has large circular folds, like speed bumps, that slow down the chyme and make it spiral. Second, the lining is covered in millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi. And third, the individual cells on those villi have their own microscopic projections called microvilli.
Microvilli. That's the brush border I've heard of.
That's the one. This brush border not only massively increases the surface area for absorption, we're talking a surface area roughly the size of a tennis court if you flattened it all out, but it also holds the final digestive enzymes needed to break carbohydrates and proteins down into absorbable units right where absorption happens.
A tennis court.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, so once the fuel, the glucose, amino acids, fatty acids is absorbed, it doesn't just dump straight into general circulation, right? There's another checkpoint.
A hugely important one, the liver. The liver is without doubt the body's major metabolic organ. And the circulatory plumbing is set up so that nutrient-rich blood coming directly from the small intestine and large intestine doesn't go straight to the heart.
It goes where first?
It goes directly to the liver first via a special vessel called the hepatic portal vein. This unique setup, the hepatic portal circulation, ensures the liver gets first dibs on everything absorbed from your meal.
So the liver acts like a processing center or maybe a customs checkpoint.
Exactly. It can process, store, alter, or detoxify the absorbed nutrients and any ingested toxins before they reach the rest of your body. Think of it like the central bank managing the body's fuel economy.
Okay, let's talk about that fuel management. If you eat a big carbohydrate-rich meal, your blood glucose spikes. How does the liver step in to keep blood sugar stable around that target of, say, 100 milligrams per 100 milliliters?
The liver has three main metabolic tricks up its sleeve for glucose homeostasis. First, if blood glucose is high after a meal, the liver performs glycogenesis. That literally means glycogen creation. It takes the excess glucose and converts it into a storage molecule called glycogen, packing it away for later use, like depositing cash in the vault.
Okay, storing the excess. What if blood sugar drops, like between meals?
Then the liver does the reverse. Glycogenolysis, glycogen breakdown. It breaks down its stored glycogen reserves and releases glucose back into the bloodstream to bring levels up. That's making a withdrawal from the vault.
Makes sense. Storage and release. Is there a third strategy?
Yes, the emergency backup plan, if you will. If you haven't eaten for a long time, or during prolonged fasting or intense exercise when glycogen stores run low, the liver can perform gluconeogenesis.
Gluconeogenesis, new sugar creation.
Exactly. The liver can actually synthesize new glucose molecules from non-carbohydrate sources, primarily from amino acids, from protein breakdown, or glycerol from fat breakdown. This is absolutely critical for maintaining blood glucose for the brain when dietary carbs and stored glycogen aren't available.
Wow, so it's incredibly versatile in managing sugar. What about other metabolic roles? Detoxification.
Hugely important. For instance, when your body metabolizes proteins, it produces ammonia as a byproduct, which is highly toxic. The liver quickly grabs this ammonia, combines it with carbon dioxide, and converts it into urea. Urea is much less toxic and water-soluble, so it can be safely transported in the blood to the kidneys to be filtered out and excreted in urine.
It also manages cholesterol transport, right? The whole LDL-HDL thing.
Absolutely. The liver synthesizes cholesterol, but it also manages its transport throughout the body using lipoproteins. You have low-density lipoproteins, LDLs, which are often called bad cholesterol. Their job is to deliver cholesterol to body cells. Too much LDL can lead to cholesterol buildup in arteries.
And the good kind.
That's high-density lipoproteins, HDLs. These are like the cleanup crew. They scavenge excess cholesterol from tissues and artery walls and transport it back to the liver where it can be broken down or excreted in bile. So the liver is central to maintaining that balance between delivery and removal.
This is all fascinating, seeing how the machinery works. But before we synthesize, we absolutely have to touch upon something the source material really highlights. The internal ecosystem, our microbes.
Ah, yes, the microbiota. Crucial.
Here's where it gets really mind-blowing, I think. The research points out that the sheer number of microbes, bacteria, fungi, viruses living in and on us might outnumber our actual human cells by as much as 10 to 1.
It's a staggering number, and we're increasingly realizing they aren't just passive hitchhikers, they are essential collaborators in our health.
Collaborators how? What do they influence?
So many things. We now know they profoundly influence the development and function of our immune system. They play a huge role in energy extraction from food, and they even communicate with our nervous system, potentially influencing mood and brain health. They help train our immune system from birth, teaching it what's friend and what's foe.
Okay, let's focus on the energy part for a second. Beyond just helping break down fiber we can't digest, what's their specific contribution there?
A key output is their production of short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. When our gut microbes ferment dietary fiber that we couldn't digest ourselves, they produce these SCFAs like butyrate, propionate, and acetate.
And these SCFAs are important.
Hugely. Butyrate, for example, is the preferred energy source for the cells lining our colon, keeping the gut barrier healthy. But SCFAs also act as signaling molecules that travel through the bloodstream. They can influence appetite regulation, reduce inflammation, and even affect metabolic processes in the liver and other tissues. They're a major link between diet, microbes, and our overall metabolic health.
That really underscores their importance. And we see the clinical relevance dramatically when this ecosystem gets disrupted, right? Like with antibiotics.
Exactly. Antibiotics, while often necessary, can wipe out large portions of our beneficial gut microbes. This creates an opportunity for harmful bacteria, which might have been present in small numbers and kept in check, to overgrow and cause disease. The classic example is Clostridioides difficile, or C. diff.
C. diff infections can be really serious, even life-threatening.
They can, especially the recurrent or antibiotic-resistant forms. But the most effective treatment for recurrent C. diff infections actually highlights the power of the microbiota itself. Fecal microbiota transplant, or FMT.
Right, that involves transferring stool from a healthy donor into the patient's gut.
It sounds crude, perhaps, but it's incredibly effective. Essentially, you're restoring a healthy, diverse microbial ecosystem to outcompete the C. diff. The cure rates for FMT in recurrent C. diff are often over 90%.
Over 90%. That's incredible.
It really is. And it's probably the most powerful demonstration we have of just how vital a balanced, diverse internal ecosystem is for our fundamental physiological function and health. #outro. So if we bring it all together, you can see how these systems are just completely intertwined, operating as a single integrated unit.
Yeah, they really don't work in isolation at all.
The respiratory system pulls in the oxygen needed for cellular energy and gets rid of the CO2 waste. The digestive system breaks down food to provide the raw energy substrates and building blocks. And the lymphatic system acts as the surveillance and cleanup crew, constantly filtering tissue fluid, managing immune responses, and dealing with anything that breaches the barriers.
All powered by the energy delivered via the gut and the oxygen from the lungs.
Exactly. It's like this constant dynamic equilibrium, a continuous, managed war against entropy and invasion running seamlessly most of the time.
So what's the big takeaway here? I mean, it seems clear that our body's ability to defend itself, but also to tolerate harmless things, to tell friend from foe, is really heavily shaped by the training it gets, especially early on.
That seems increasingly evident.
The source material we looked at brings up the hygiene hypothesis. This is the idea that the dramatic increase we've seen in allergies and autoimmune diseases, particularly in developed countries, might be linked to a decrease in exposure to diverse microbes and foreign antigens during childhood, when the immune system is learning and developing.
Yeah, the idea that we might be too clean for our own good, immunologically speaking.
Right. And if something like FMT, reintroducing a whole community of microbes, can be so stunningly successful at curing a disease like C. diff by restoring diversity, well, it really makes you wonder.
It does raise profound questions.
In our modern world, which is often focused on sterilization and avoiding germs, should we maybe reconsider our relationship with dirt? Should we perhaps view diverse microbial exposure not purely as a threat, but as essential, necessary training material for developing a balanced, robust, and properly regulated immune system?
The plumbing, the gas station, the kitchen, they all need the right inputs. And maybe some of those crucial inputs are things we've been actively trying to eliminate. It's definitely a provocative thought.
Indeed. Something to chew on. Thanks for diving in with us today.